Okay, this presentation is recording, and I am going to broadcast. Everyone's entering.
Good afternoon. Just going to wait a minute for people to load in. There's a lot of people on today's Zoom. I'm just going to wait about 5 more seconds. All right. Well, welcome, ladies. Welcome to our Successful Women in Business June virtual lunch. I'm not sure who's eating. If you're like me, you've been eating all day, especially now that we're working from home and working in our little spaces. It's been my go-to. So I am very excited about today's program. I have loved to watch Dr. Parker speak at the podium at many of our events. Always very informative, but very enlightening, invigorating, energetic, and I'm just really excited for today's program. And I think we're gonna, it's gonna be a little bit more personal story from Dr. Parker. So you will have the opportunity to participate in some questions. If there's that itching question that you want to know, you can type it down on the bottom of the screen. Chastity, I'm going to have Chastity come up real quick and share all of the housekeeping with you, such as how to ask a question in Zoom. So Chastity.
Hi, ladies. I'm sure many of you ladies are Zoom experts by now because this is probably your 1000th Zoom presentation that you've attended. But just in case you forget, if you hover on your Zoom screen, at the bottom you will see a toolbar pop up. There is a little thought bubble that says Q&A, so if you have any questions, just feel free to put them in that Q&A box, and Dr. Parker will answer those questions, most likely at the end of the presentation. Just to let you know that this presentation is being recorded. You can find the recording after on our YouTube channel under the Events and Resources playlist so that you can see it later and share with your friends who missed it. So enjoy the event, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you, Chas. So our Successful Women in Business, I'm looking at the list of people here and I see names like Donna Biazzi and Gina Harwood and Constance Scott, Jackie Reese. I miss seeing all of you. I mean, we've gotten used to having lunch with each other every month for Successful Women in Business, and it feels like it's been well over a year, although it's only been 3 months. But I do look forward to the day that we can all do this in person again soon. I do want to recognize the sponsors of this program. These are businesses that absolutely support women, support the success of women, and they've been partners of ours for a long time. So I do want to recognize our Ruby sponsors, Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital or Health Specialty Center, New Space up in Wellington, Hospice of the Palm Beaches, Hospice by the Sea, now known as Trust Bridge, where I did receive an email from one of our partners at Trust Bridge who's they've released some really amazing videos on how to cope through this time. So I do encourage you to go on their website and check out their videos. Our partners at West Boca Medical Center and our Sapphire sponsors, Bell Rock Capital, Center State Bank, Florida Blue, Toshiba, and Northwestern Mutual. So again, if we could give a virtual round of applause for our sponsors and partners of this program, we absolutely appreciate their support and their continued support throughout the years. So thank you to them. So I'm going to just get going. I'm going to read Dr. Parker's bio. I'm thrilled. I'm probably going to ask a few questions myself. I'm eager to get started. So without further ado, I will be reading her bio. Palm Beach State College's president, Dr. Ava L. Parker, leads Palm Beach County's largest higher education institution with a strategic approach that emphasizes innovation, student success, business, and community collaboration. She is the first female president in the history of the institution, which opened in 1933, absolutely, as Florida's first public community college. Under her leadership, The college opened a 5th campus, improved student success rates, and increased enrollment. Palm Beach State College was also awarded the top status of gold in the Florida College System's 2017 rankings. An esteemed educational leader at the local, state, and national levels, Dr. Parker serves on the Association of Community College Trustees National Advisory Committee of Presidents, the Advisory Board of the Community College Research Center, and is actively engaged in the American Association of Community Colleges. She also served as the 2018-19 chair of the Florida College System Council of Presidents. Before joining Palm Beach State, Dr. Parker was the executive vice president and chief operating officer at Florida Polytechnic University, which she was the first executive hired to develop the institution's mission and vision as the state's only STEM-focused university. She also served for more than a decade on the Florida Board of Governors for the state university system, including serving as board chair. Her leadership extends beyond higher education. She is on the board of directors for the Orchid Island Capital, a publicly traded specialty finance company, and the Orange Bowl Committee. She is also a founding board member of Coastal Community Bank and a member of the Florida Council of 100, the Women's International Leadership Forum, and Leadership Florida. She is a former president of the Virgil Hawkins Florida chapter of the National Bar Association. So bank, attorneys, all sorts of have your hands in all sorts of different industries. Dr. Parker is also active in community organizations, including the Business Leadership Development Board of Palm Beach County, the Economic Council of Palm Beach County, and the Academic Leaders Council of Palm Beach County. She is a native of Santa Rosa County in Northwest Florida and earned her bachelor's and JD degrees from the University of Florida. A lot of UF there. She's married to Joe Gibbons. They have 2 children and enjoy spending their time in the wonderful backdrop of Palm Beach County. And as a proud mother of a daughter who goes to Palm Beach State, I can tell you it has been easy for me to help her get through the process. People are so helpful there. They truly care about not just the education, but the future of the students and their careers. I know at the chamber, we work all the time with Palm Beach State because they're easy to work with when it comes to getting curriculum getting things put on the curriculum for training and for the businesses that need to hire a number of people right off the bat, and they're able to make those changes and offer those trainings and services quickly. So we love working with Palm Beach State, and without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Ava Parker. Thank you.
Gosh, Sarah, thank you so much. I'm so excited about the opportunity to spend some time with you all today. I have to tell you, it's a little bit strange because even if you can imagine, my Zoom screen just has a picture of me looking at myself, and I see Sarah's name in the box, and I see the Boca Chamber logo. So the only way that I'm going to be able to hear from you or communicate with you, I think at this point, may be just through chat, or if there's a way for me to change the view of my screen, I certainly want to take advantage of that. It is really hard to have a conversation when I can't actually see you guys and know that you understand what it is that I'm saying or what I mean. And is there a way to change that, Tia?
Dr. Parker, everyone
Yes.
will be asking their questions in the Q&A box. If you see it at the bottom of your Zoom tool,
Okay, got
they'll
it.
be putting their questions in there. So if you want to look at them during the presentation, you can, or Sarah will ask you the questions at the end for you to verbalize.
No, that's got it.
Yeah, and if there's something that pops up that's timely, I'll absolutely interrupt you and say, hey, here's this pretty cool question, right? That has to do with what you're talking about. So
Got it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ladies. I appreciate that. So, Sarah mentioned that, and I have to tell you, that's a little bit uncomfortable, Sarah, to hear you give that long introduction. I really should have shortened that, because I tell you, everything feels longer on Zoom. It seems that, I could stand up and see you guys. We could have a conversation for 35, 40 minutes and be easy. So just know that I want to talk to you a little bit about myself and about my background. But certainly I'm hoping that we can have a real opportunity to engage in some questions and answers. As I think of, I'm sorry, yes.
Did you want to share your screen now?
I mean, I can.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry.
Chastity, I think, can I do it whenever I'd like, or?
Absolutely.
Okay, let me do it that way if you don't mind.
No problem.
So I'm going to first talk about myself some, and then go over a couple of slides that I have for you guys. As I think about this, as I think about women leaders, as I think about women in business, and certainly if you are a person, if you're a woman, if you made a decision to become active in Boca Chamber, then I'm going to assume that you are either an owner of a business, or you work or have some position in your business where you understand the value of joining an organization like the Boca Chamber because of the reach that it gives you within your community and the breadth of opportunity to actually make and develop relationships that change your lives as well as change your business. And what's interesting about chambers, when I think about what they do, and more specifically, the leadership that we have with Troy and Sarah and Chastity, is that they are really committed to ensuring that their members have this opportunity to engage and exchange and really gain from each other. And I would tell you that if I look back over my career and the things that I've been able to do, I would say that it is because of I kind of operate myself as if I am an independent chamber. That is, that I understand that it's the relationships that I've developed along the way. It's a willingness to always be open and receive. It's just this idea that we are better together, which is what I think chambers promote. That's the kind of thing that I've used to as a guide for my life, and certainly something that I hope will be helpful from, as we talk about what I've done, is as something that will be very beneficial for you when you think about yourself. Um, One thing I also hope is that if at the conclusion of this, you feel like, well, gosh, if Ava can do it, then certainly I could, or certainly I can. Because I want you to be reminded that no matter what it is you want right now for yourself personally or professionally, that you have it within yourself to achieve those things. Because that is the spirit by which I've always kind of dealt and that, or operated, and that I've always felt that if I wanted to do it, then certainly I have the ability, or I can develop a plan or strategize to get it done. And guys, I grew up in a small one high school town in the panhandle of Florida. It's Milton, Florida. It was Milton High School. It's in Santa Rosa County. And and certainly while I lived in a small fishbowl, I never thought that that would be the end of my opportunities. I thought that was just the beginning. That would be my foundation, and that I would always have an opportunity to grow and bigger if that's what I wanted for my life. So what I tell you is that I finished high school, went to University of Florida, got majored in journalism, and went right to law school. And really probably thought that I would spend most of my career practicing law. I, graduated. I spent some time as a criminal defense lawyer in Miami. I went and worked in state government in Tallahassee, and ultimately ultimately moved to Jacksonville, where I spent most of my professional career as a lawyer. And what I'd say to you is that in addition to practicing law, I always stayed engaged in my community. That is, I was always engaged in different organizations. I was always very active politically. I always felt that it was important for me to try to make a difference in my community. And I think that it's because of that engagement that I was given an opportunity to really start my career in higher education. So I really started as a volunteer. I can tell you I didn't have a client. I represented a small private college called Edward Waters College when I was living there in Jacksonville. But my true opportunity to engage as a leader in higher education was when I was appointed to the Board of Governors of the State University System. And what's great about that is that, for over 10 years, I had this wonderful opportunity to help to develop policy for the state of Florida in higher education. And what's really cool about that is that most people don't have an opportunity to give that type of volunteer service where you really can see that it has a real impact on the communities that you serve in. So while serving on the member of the Board of Governors, I really became an expert on higher education. And what was interesting about that is that my interaction was always with presidents. That is that, you know, if you think about different opportunities that you have to volunteer and how you become an expert in an area. And so to me, I really developed an expertise in higher education by really interacting with leaders of universities and by developing policy for the state of Florida that was going to really impact and shape where we would take our higher education opportunities. And so what's fascinating about that is that I've been blessed, unlike many, and that I was able to turn my advocacy into my vocation. That is that while many people, when they go into higher ed, they start as faculty or they start in administration, you know, at some lower level, and they work their way up into leadership. Me and my, I guess my path or my route was somewhat different, and that I actually started by working directly with leaders, started by developing policies that actually shape an entire state, and actually was given an opportunity to take all of that knowledge to then go inside and help build Florida's 12th state university, which is Florida Polytechnic University. And I say that because I know right now, many of you, in addition to whatever job you're in, you also engage and are really involved within your community and really involved in volunteer activities. And what I'd say to you is that if you find that your passion is really in that volunteer work, I want you to know that because I did it, that there is a pathway for that volunteer work to be your vocation, if that's really where to be your ultimate vocation, if that's where your heart is. And so what happened is that they gave me this wonderful opportunity to go in and actually build Florida Polytechnic University. And when I say build it, the institution used to be a branch campus of the University of South Florida. When I got there, the legislature had already developed these milestones that needed to be reached. And then also they were already starting to build a brand new campus. But they didn't have any bones. You know, they really didn't have any of the tools together that we needed in order to meet the deadline of recruiting a brand new class of students in. So what I'd say to you is that I had to get there and that I was the first executive that they hired in order to really make this happen. And so to me, that was a make or break opportunity in my career. And what I'd say to you is that you always have to step back and realize what those make or break opportunities look like. I knew that I would have been like, it's been a long time since we built a new state university in our state. And I knew that if I was able to make this happen and really pour my soul into this and to turn this project that many people had counted out, that many people thought it could never be done, if I could step in and get that done, that it would open up a whole new oyster of opportunities for me personally. So not only was I committed to this work because I believed that Florida needed an institution that was focused on STEM, and not only was I committed to this work because I just thought it was an interesting thing to do, I also had a real opportunity to create something else for myself if I wanted to do something other than practice law. And what it really happened is that over my time serving on the Board of Governors of the state university system, I fell in love with higher ed. I fell in love with the difference that it made in the lives of our families, you know, for families and students. And the fact that, you know, with a good higher education system, we could really transition the state to even greater things. And I fell in love with this idea that universities are the research and development arm of our state. And this idea that state colleges are the economic development arm, and kind of understanding how all that fit together. So what I say to you is that after going in and going in-house at Florida Polytechnic University, that I also grew to this idea that, hey, if I was able to do this, then I think that I had the ability to actually lead an academic institution. And I felt like I knew that because I worked so closely with presidents that I understood what they do. And I felt like I had that leadership ability to do something like that. Maybe not here, maybe not at this particular place, but I knew that I felt like I had the tools and the experience to do something really cool that I'd never done before directly, at all the different pieces to be successful, I thought. And so I began at that point to work with a headhunter. I said, when you find opportunities that are available, I'd like to be considered. Please ensure that my name is thrown into the ring. And I began to interview. And this is after Florida Polytechnic had developed. We had met our milestones. We welcomed our first class. The board of trustees had decided that they really wanted to hire a president who had an engineering or technology background, which was not my background. There was an assumption that I would stay there as a chief operating officer and that I would help him build the institution. And certainly I was all in for that. And I was ready to support him as the new president. But since I've been the chief executive for several years there, and since I knew that I had something within me where I could actually lead an organization like a college or a university, that's what led me to have the conversations with the headhunter to have him help me transition permanently into this new career. So I basically made the decision to stop practicing law, to go full-time into higher education, and I would go out and embark and find an opportunity. And so what I'd say to you is that when I saw the advertisement for the president of college, one of my colleagues brought it to my attention, and I said to him, oh, wow, I could never be considered for that job. They must already, have someone in mind. I don't have the politics necessary to get a job like that. And so I said, I won't even apply. But I was so surprised and so fortunate when someone from the search committee actually called me and said, we really would like for you to apply for this position. We've seen what you've done at Florida Poly. We've seen your presentations to the Board of Governors of the state university system. And we think that you have what it takes to really take our institution to the next level. We had 18 years of a great president, but we think that you will have what it takes to build on his foundation. So what I'd say to you is a second thing you should always remember that, always assume that there's always somebody watching. So I had no idea that during these presentations, when I was talking about our vision for Florida Polytechnic University, that there was someone from Palm Beach County who was watching what I was doing, who was impressed with how I did it, and then therefore recommended or asked that I apply for this job. So you have to always keep in mind that just when you think that no one is looking, there's someone's always watching and really paying attention to what it is that you're doing professionally, and that may ultimately impact the choices that you make. So, what I'd say to you professionally is that it's always important to keep in mind that every presentation should be a good presentation. Every interaction may lead to another opportunity. And I'm not suggesting to you that you should be an opportunist at all. What I am suggesting to you is that you should always be in tune with where you think you might want to go, and always understand that just the person that you just meet may not be the person who you thought could give you this other opportunity. But if you're always, true to yourself, if you're always giving 100%, if you're always kind of trying to, as best you can, be on your A game, then you never know what these interactions that you might have might lead to. So that's why I say to you professionally, if a little girl from a small town in Northwest Florida can ultimately have an opportunity to lead one of the best institutions in the state of Florida, and that's an opportunity that I was given, that I know it's an opportunity that you can be given as well. So as professionals, as women, I say to you that you're that I think businesses are now understanding that women lead differently, and that I think it's important for us to have that different approach if we want our companies to be successful, particularly based upon our interest in attracting women as potential clients, customers, and consumers. So I say all that to you about me professionally because I just want you to know that my way was not straight. I took a lot of turns and curves, but I think those turns and curves led to this wonderful opportunity that I have now here at Palm Beach State College. So while I want you to know about my professional background and kind of have some idea about kind of how I got here, I also want to talk to you about me personally. And I want you to know about some things that, that happened with me. And I'm hoping that you will be inspired by these things. and that you'll also understand how important it is for you to be really in tune with who you are and what you want in order for you to be the best to all the people, or best for all the people who depend upon you. So now I think, Chastity, I think I want to share my screen.
Okay.
Let's see if it's working. Yeah, there it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So again, this is the note to start with, that we're here talking with successful women, and I hope that some of my successes, again, both personally and professionally, will be helpful for you. I can do this, I think. Just do this. Yes, I shared this slide with you, and I know that I said we're going to start talking about me personally, but I also wanted you to see this slide, because that, to me, says a lot about who we are as an institution or as a business here in Palm Beach County. I think that Palm Beach State College is the heart of Palm Beach County, and you'll hear me say that I see that we're the heart of the county, because I feel like every day that you go outside of your neighborhood, you come in contact with someone who is either trained or earned their credential at Palm Beach State, someone who actually maybe attended one class at Palm Beach State, somebody who works here, because we employ over 2,000 people here, or possibly someone who at least took a class, or their kids took a class here. And I think that because of that, I see ourselves at the heart of the county. I get to work with fabulous faculty who are master teachers, who work with students from every walk of life, because we're open access. And also, we are about a third Black, a third white, and a third Hispanic. And I think that that's the diversity of our county. And that diversity is reflected in the work that we do here at the college. So that's why you hear me say we're the heart of the county, because I tell you, if you had your teeth cleaned this week, if you saw a police officer, if you walked into any type of business establishment, I'm sure that you had some contact with our students. But what I really, really want to talk to you about, and I'm sure that some of you may have heard me talk about this before, is that I want you to talk about your position as a CEO. So one thing I will, your position as a CEO. I mean, to me, I don't know how many of you own your own companies and you've given yourself the title of Chief Executive Officer. I don't know how many of you may work for companies like I do, where I am the Chief Executive Officer of Palm Beach State College, and I report to our governing board. I don't know how many of you are leaders of corporate entities like that. But aside from whatever you do professionally, so aside from whether you lead your organization like I do, or whether you own your own company, or whether you work within the organizational structure of an existing business, what I say to you is that we're all CEOs, and the name of that company is Me Incorporated. And I say that I think it is so important for you to think of how you manage your life as the same way that you think of how you would organize a corporate organization. And so this is why, and some of you may have heard me talk about this before. Please know I'm going to share some additional information, but just know that it's important that you see yourself as a Chief Executive Officer of Me Incorporated. And I thought that I would share with you the C-suite for Me Inc. So as you think about how you organize yours, I hope that you can rely upon some of the information that I shared today. And I'd like to just say, give a shout out to my dear friend, President Hale, who is the president of Broward College. That's who's on this picture with me here. So here is the organizational structure for my C-suite. And certainly if it's easier for you to do this, if you call yourself Ava Incorporated, for me, it's easier for me to call it Me Incorporated, because it gets at the ideals that I think are important for women as we see what's best for us and best for the people who depend upon us. So the reason I think that it's so important for you to even use the word Me Inc. is that I am going to tell you as women that in order for us to do all the things that we need to do, in order for us to respond to all the people who depend upon us, I say to you that you're going to have to start by being selfish. And you're going to have to start by being selfish and being concerned and interested in what you want for yourself. because my guiding principle is that as the leader and CEO of Me Inc., that if I can find the things that really make me happy, and if I put that first, then I'm going to be better for everybody that depends upon me. And so, yes, I mean, I'm kind of saying that it's important for you to be selfish. And I think that being selfish is helpful, because if you take care of yourself first, then I think you'll be in a better position to take care of all the people who depend upon you to get it right. And so what I'd say to you is that normally and actually what I believe, and I would say, okay, so you see I'm Ava and my husband is Joe. And because I'm being politically correct, I kind of put me and Joe on the same line there together. But what I want to be honest with you is that in my organization, really it's Ava and Joe is reporting to Ava. But since this is, I never know how many of you guys may know my husband, Joe Gibbons, and I want to make sure we keep everything straight in my corporation. So certainly publicly, when I publish this, I have us there together as if it is a direct line before us and it's a partnership. But I'm going to be honest with you, and Me Incorporated, I'm the CEO and I'm here, and Joe is a person that reports to me. And so I say to you that, you know, Joe is a wonderful spouse and a wonderful partner. But as I think about my organization, again, it's kind of what makes more sense is I'm putting myself at the top and kind of putting him as second to me. And Joe and I are very, very blessed in that Joe and I have a set of twins. I have a boy, Parker, and a girl, Bailey. And Parker and Bailey are only 10 years old. And so what I'd say to you is that for those of you who may be contemplating having kids, for those of you who may feel that maybe you've waited too late, I want to tell you that I was 46 years old when Parker and Bailey were born. And in fact, I was 46 and Joe was 60. And what I'd say to you is that, you know, it was very difficult because I have always operated under the assumption that I want it all, and I believe that I can have it all. And so while I was well into my 40s, I still wanted to have kids, and it just didn't happen for me. When I was 39, I got married for the first time, and my husband and my first husband and I, we were married for about a year, maybe a year and a half. And the one thing I'd say to you about divorce, and as it related to me personally, and again, sharing personal things about myself, is that the one upside of getting married when I was 39 is that I was very comfortable with understanding what made me happy. And while I thought that I would be really happy in my first marriage, I wasn't. And I wasn't willing to stay in something that I knew was not going to be good for me. And that was a real something that I had to come to grips with, because certainly I could have felt like, wow, you waited all this time and, you know, you married a guy that you knew from college. He's a really nice man. Why is it, why isn't it that why can't you make this work? And, you know, I didn't know the answer. All I know was that it wasn't working for me. A telltale sign is that I pretty much gained 25 pounds really, really fast. And that was the way I was kind of dealing with something that wasn't working for me. And so what happened is after a very short-lived marriage, we were divorced, and I was very blessed soon after that to meet my current husband, Joe Gibbons, who is a great guy. But I got to tell you guys, so since I was 39 years old when I met my first husband, I'm now into like my early 40s when Joe and I first start to meet. And so I want to tell you something that I did that gives you an idea of the kind of person that I am, and that I was like, listen, I know we're just meeting, Joe, and this has maybe been like on our second date. I'm like, I know we're just meeting, and I think you're a great guy. We seem to really have a great synergy going, but I need to tell you right now that I really am interested in having kids. And if for any reason that is not something that you want, then we really shouldn't continue to date, because it's not like we have 5 years for us to think about it. And then from there, we can start to have kids. I'm already in my early 40s, and I want to be upfront and let you know that's something that I'd like to have. And if you're willing to go on that journey with me, we can continue dating and make sure that we're going to be okay. But if that's not something you see in your future, then let's part ways now. So what I'd say to you is that at this point in my life, I felt like, I have to be straightforward and understand exactly what it is that I wanted for myself. And I had to share that with my potential partner. And so that was like on the second date, I'm telling him that. And, thank God it didn't scare him away. He now tells me that he never thought we'd be successful having kids anyway, so it didn't matter. But little did he know that through the wonderful miracles of science, I will tell you that, at that point, I had previously tried to have kids, and I learned that my tubes were blocked, and that if I was going to be able to have children, we would have to go through in vitro. And so I was, through many different misses. We were blessed and in 2009 to have this boy and this girl twin. I was so happy because that was my only shot. And certainly we were blessed, but I would say to you, it's because I knew what I wanted. It's because after those times that it didn't work, I didn't just quit. I was tenacious about it. As soon as I could try again, I tried again. And then we were blessed to have Parker and Bailey. So I'm sorry to get on that tangent, but I wanted you to know that there's something about knowing what you want and something about being upfront with people when you engage with them that I think led to this wonderful blessing. So I want to talk to you more about my C-suite. So what you'll see is that my family is very important to me. So my sister Lana is there because my sister lives with me. So we're so blessed to have her, and I have her over there with the family block. I have Miss Raquel on the slide because Miss Raquel helps to make our life work. So Miss Raquel is the babysitter who helps us with the kids. And so here's what I'd say to you about my C-suite and kind of knowing who you are. I have to get comfortable with the idea that as the leader of Palm Beach State College, my job will not allow me to be the person to pick up my kids. And what's special and what's important about Miss Raquel, and she's been with us for a while, so my kids are certainly getting a lot bigger now. But what's special about it is that she picks them up from school, so they'll go to extended days. So she'll pick them up at 4 o'clock. She'll help them with their homework. And most of the time she will already have dinner, they will have dinner with her. And then by the time I get home, which is usually between 7 and 8, they're already ready for bed. And so what I'd say to you is that for many of you, that is not the relationship that you feel comfortable with having with your children. And what I want to say to you is that that is okay. That, I have to do what works for me. I have to be comfortable with where I am in my life and the things that I think make me happy. I love my job, and I love the opportunity to make the difference that I can make in the lives of our students. So therefore, I'd say to you that this is something that I, have to deal with, that I miss some things. But I also believe that it's my responsibility to do the best I can for my kids. And I think that having a person like Raquel in our life who is loving, who's also there, having me and Joe there together, I can assure there's always an adult who loves my kids, who are always present with them. And it's just not always me. And I have to be okay. And so I'd say to you, it's important for you to search inside, look internally, and make a real decision about what really makes you happiest, and be okay with it. And don't feel like you're being judged by your friends who may see that totally different. Your friends who've chosen to be stay-at-home moms. If that works for you, if that's where your heart is calling you, then I support that. I want you to do it. For me, that's not what called my heart. I wanted to have these children. I love them. They're a very important part of my life. But I also wanted to have this career, and I'm okay with making with accepting some of the things I may have to rely upon others to do for me, which I think is another advantage of having kids when you're older, is that you accept the fact that it's okay and that it takes other people to help you to get this done. So I'd say to you, I have the responsibility to also run the college. You understand that I am very engaged with the, with our community. So that means that, my work doesn't always stop with just what happens at the college, but also the communities I'm a part of. I have to tell you that my friends are probably some of the, it's probably the cornerstone as well, one of the larger cornerstones within my, in my life. I think that the engagement with friends and people who I love outside of my family are also very, very important. And then I also have a really big focus on my health. So I will tell you, this morning I woke up at 5:20 because it was important for me to get up. and exercise for an hour and a half. And Blanca, if you're out there, we're still missing you in the mornings during our walks. I'd say to you that that I need that mental, because that health, that walk and that exercise for an hour and a half, it helps me with my mental health as well as my physical health. So it's something that I have to do in order to make sure I can do all the other things that I'm responsible for within my corporation. And then finally, what I'd say to you, that my foundation in all of this is my spiritual health. So I don't know what you believe. I don't know, what it is, where you are with your religion or your faith. But for me, my faith is what makes all this work for me. I have to believe that some of the decisions that I'm making, that I'm trusting in God and believing that He's guiding me in different directions. I feel like all the things I did leading up to this point in my career prepared me for the job that I have right now. And decisions just based upon my faith and my heart and kind of my inner self and what it was telling me to do. But I want you to know it's my faith and my belief in God that actually helps me to get the things done that I need to do. And so what I'd say to you is that you have to find that thing for yourself. You have to find that thing that is going to kind of give you the balance that you're going to need to balance all the entities and all the things that are on your plate within your corporation. But it starts, and if you don't remember anything else I say, remember, it starts with you knowing what it is that you want and you giving yourself permission to put yourself first. And that's the permission that I give myself. And that's what I think leads to whatever success I have or whatever peace that I have professionally, as well as whatever peace and success that I have within the responsibilities that I have with my family. So I'm hoping that as you put together your corporate organization, as you look at your Me Inc., that you're reminded that I give you all the permission in the world to please do what's best for you, and to not feel guilty about putting yourself first. There's something that I did probably about 20 years ago that I want to share with you. And I really did make a decision to develop a personal mission. And again, your personal mission really is you doing a lot of inner soul searching about what's important to you, about what really speaks to who you are and who you want to be to other people. So my personal mission statement is to lead, because I feel like I've been a leader since I know I've been in second grade. I can remember the leadership part I was given in that second grade play. So I know that leadership is in my DNA, and not just to lead, but to strategize. It is to make really informed decisions about things, and how do you strategize and make things work in your vision. I'm really big on accepting people where they are. That is that I want to accept people where they are. So that is that I am not trying to change you. I'm trying to understand that you are who you are, and if you're happy with yourself, it's my responsibility to meet you at that place and not to try to impose my ideas on you. And I think I have a responsibility to create pathways for success for my family, my friends, and my community. And so while I know that this would not sing or resonate with anybody else, this resonates with me, that if I'm in an organization, 75 to 80% of the time, I'm going to want to lead that organization. I consider myself to be a leader of leaders, but I don't just want to lead for the sake of leading. I want to develop a strategy that's going to make it better. And I think that that's important. And I really want to I don't want to be judgmental of people. That is that I don't want to feel like my values are values that you have to accept. I want to meet you where you are. And I feel like I have a responsibility to create pathways for success for everyone who's in my sphere. And I try my best to do that with whatever may be available to me. And so I thought it was important for me to share that with you. This is actually a fun time. When I was the grand marshal for one of the parades at the Florida Fair, and that's me and our mascot Palmer. I thought, since I told you so much about my personal life, that it was important for me to share my family with you. So that's my husband Joe, my son Parker, and And my husband's last name is Gibbons. So my son is not Parker Parker. His name is Parker Gibbons. And my daughter Bailey Gibbons. And yes, they are 10-year-old twins. Although at this point, Bailey is still a lot taller than Parker. I thought this as an interesting thing. This was Easter at our house in 2019. And I thought just to, kind of show you the difference of the pandemic, this is Easter at our house in 2020. So certainly we did not get dressed up based upon the things that we had to do as far as quarantining for the pandemic in 2020. But I thought it was neat to show you the difference that that made in our life this year. And, what I'd say to you all is that if I had to step back and think of words that describe me, I consider myself to be thoughtful. I consider myself to be strong. I consider myself to be tenacious. That is, that I've been knocked down many a times, but I'm committed and determined to get back up. And I think that I'm responsible. I feel like I try to be responsible for those who rely upon me. I try to be responsible for particularly my family. And I feel a certain responsibility to you. As a woman in business in Palm Beach County, I feel a responsibility to do whatever I can to inspire you, to show you that you have all that it takes to be the success you want to be, and to support your businesses where I can. So with that, Sarah, I think I've taken way more time than I should have, but that's all I wanted to share about myself today.
My goodness, if you could probably hear all the claps around the South, Palm Beach County. It's amazing. We don't have the opportunity to put claps or thumbs up on this particular Zoom, but I can't tell you how many times I wanted to give you a thumbs up. And I mean, I wrote down, first of all, the advocate to vocation. That was, advocacy to vocation. That's what got me started. But I love, the organizational structure. I love your honesty. There are so many things that you should add honesty to your traits for sure. Trustworthy, just really a real person. And, that was truly amazing. There are a few questions. Actually, Michelle, good for you, Michelle. I wrote this one down and she has asked the same one. So how did you come to create your mission statement? I'm going to add to that and ask you when you wrote it and if you've ever changed it.
So, I want to say that I created it because it was some type of, I don't know, it may have been like a workshop or something that I was in. I mean, so it wasn't, I wish I could tell you that, gosh, I just sat down one night and said, I should have my own mission statement. I want to say it was a part of some type of conference that I attended, and they talked about, that being a good thing for you to do as you vision what you want for your life. And I want to say that this was something I probably created 20 years ago. So it's not something that I just started. It's something that I would have done probably, because I'm 56 now, so I would have been in my late 30s, between late 30s and 40, that I sat down and said, I really need to be honest about who I am and about what things are really important to me. So that's what I say. The first thing is that it's kind of like, if you step back, so if I'm doing this by the time I'm 35, I've kind of have some things to really see, what has been consistent about me, whether I want to admit it or not. And so I think that's the first step in this. What is it that's been consistent in your life? What is it that really speaks to who you are? And honestly, I've always been engaged in leadership. And so that's why you hear me say that part of my personal mission is to lead. But then it also was important to me to kind of say, but I don't want to just be any kind of leader, because a leader also has to understand when it's important to follow. And so that's why this whole idea of strategizing was important. And I think for me is that I wanted to see, okay, so one thing is how I deal with myself, but what is it about, I want to say, about how I interact with other people? And so that was kind of what kind of got me to the second part of, how is it that I interact with people, and how is it that I want to really kind of, encourage myself, because sometimes I find myself being judgmental. I have to say, oh, remember, that's not who you want to be. And so it kind of was like, I thought it was important to say, okay, this is who I am, here's who I want to be to other people. And then I want it to be, what is my responsibility? That is, what is it that I want people to see me and say, you know what, she really did, she helped others. How is it that I can give back? And so that's kind of the three parts for me. And I don't know that there's anything unique about that, as much as that's kind of how I got to that point. I recommend that you do this. I recommend that you write it down. I know that for me, I do, I do notebooks. It's kind of like, I kind of keep them as my way of keeping myself kind of like one book at a time. And so I try to write that in my notebooks as I, even as I change others or change to new ones, so that I can be reminded that this is who, and sometimes who I am in many ways, but also who I strive to be. So I hope that helps.
Absolutely does. Okay, so we have you ever considered serving as an elected official at the state level?
My husband is the elected official in our family. When I met Joe, he was a freshman legislator. He was a state representative from Hallandale Beach, Florida. And it was funny because he was in Hallandale and I was in Jacksonville. We both happened to come together. We met in Tallahassee. And so what I would say to you guys too is that for the first 8 years of our marriage, we lived in separate cities. And that really was something that was interesting because the kids were with me. And I used to tell people I have, like 3 days on and 4 days off. So it was 3 days we'd be together. And then 4 days, it would just be me and the kids. So I kind of always said that I think that that's, he takes care of that part because, man, being elected, they really dig deep into your background. And I don't know if I'm ready for that. Although I can tell you things have changed. People with lots of skeletons seem to run for office these days, but I don't foresee that on my horizons. But on my horizon. Thank you so much for asking.
Absolutely. All right. Another question is, do you have a mentor? And if so, who is your mentor? I'm sure you've had many, but who stands out?
Probably I have two people that stand out. One is my mom. So my mother, the word that people used to describe my mother often was stately. It was something about her. So my mom was a guidance counselor. She used to teach math and chemistry, and she turned to a guidance counselor later in her career. She taught. She was always in high school, a high school teacher, and then a high school guidance counselor. She was just this great leader, great role model. She was almost a Pied Piper in that, her students just fell in love with her and the things that she was able to do. She was a role model in our community. And I just like the way that she kind of carried herself. And unfortunately, she's not with us anymore. But she is the person that I would consider as a mentor, and has been, and really kind of, to me, helped to shape who I am and the things that I see as important. And I watched her lead. And I think that, she really gave me lots of insights on how to always be a lady. And I'm always not as genteel as she was, but to be a lady and to get things. And I have another mentor, and it's so interesting because I'm not even sure if she realizes that that's what she is, but I have a really good friend, and her name is Julia Johnson. And what I'd say to you is that I watched her, and I watched the things that she was able to do. And for me, she helped me to get through some tough times. So like I mentioned to you guys that, when I was really going through this idea of wanting to have a family, and I was already in my 40s, and I have this one really quick, funny story to tell you. So, so I'm in Jacksonville, and at that point, Joe and I are just engaged. We're not married. And I go to the IVF, the in vitro doctor, and I made sure I looked really cute that day because I wanted to really look extra young. So I, all this thing, all the right things to try to at least look 4 or 5 years younger than I am. And so I go in there and I say to him, and at that point I must have been 41 or so, about 40 or 41. And I say to him, but I got to tell you that, my fiance, he's like 14 years older than I am. And so I want you to know, I'm a little bit concerned about whether or not, we're going to be able to do this. doctor says to me, you know, Ava, you look cute and everything, but I'm not worried about your husband. He'll be fine. But I am worried about you and the fact that you waited until you're like this age to get this done. So just know that that was a funny story when I went to visit with the IVF doctor the first time. But my girlfriend, Julia, who I say is my mentor, is a friend who told me that if you really want to do this, you're going to have to be tenacious. And she's the person who said to me, I know it hurt that it didn't happen the first time, but as soon as you can do it again, do it again. I know that, you know, second, third, you know, fourth times, you know, it's hard, it's not working, but you keep doing it. And so I think that, you know, she's the person who is a friend of mine who actually, and mainly she too had children late in life, was able to do it. And she was, you know, very successful in her career. You know, I really followed her, and she probably unknowingly mentored me through things professionally as well as personally. And I say that to you guys, sometimes your mentor is just right there next to you, and don't always assume that it's some higher person within your career. And I can tell you that I have had great mentors along the way. People have given me wonderful advice about my career, but the ones that come to mind are my mother and one of my dear friends who I actually met in college. We were sorority sisters.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. You're right in front of us right now, and you're giving us some great advice. So yeah, I mean, thank you. Two more questions because I know we're running late here. So what is your don't be, this was awesome. What is your favorite thing to do with your family in Palm Beach County?
So my favorite thing to do, I kind of have two different choices. So I like it when we spend time in the pool, but also we're a member of a boat club. And so I really like it when we actually go out on a boat. And what's great about being a part of a boat club is that you get a reservation, you show up, and they give you the boat, and you hop on, and you use it, and you bring it back to their, you know, to their dock, and you can leave. But I think the time that we spend on the boat is my favorite time because there are no other distractions. You know, it's just the four of us, or sometimes with others join us. But I think it's that time that I think is best when, you know, it's just the kind of, it's beautiful here and it's water and we're on a boat, and, you know, we have the devices aren't like occupying all our time. So I'd say that it's either the backyard and our pool, maybe sometimes riding our bike, but really the number one would be when we're on the boat.
So it sounds like you're a water person.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right, last question. If you weren't the president of Palm Beach State, what do you think you would be doing?
Okay, guys. So I think that something that I would love to do is, and two things. I mean, I probably would also be interested, and this is Constance, if you're still there, like it'd be interesting to me to lead an institution with a large residential campus. Like, I think that would be a neat thing to do, just as another complexity to kind of fit within the strategy. But that's just, you know, kind of like an idea that could be a traditional kind of thing within my trajectory. But I would be interested in leading a national organization. And what I mean by that, it can be a national nonprofit or just, you know, an organization that had a national footprint. So like, for instance, like if I could be the commissioner of the Women's National Basketball Association, or if I could be like even like the national leader for what can I think of something like let's say it's just some national organization that would give you an opportunity to develop a national strategy for how you provide services either to your member organizations or just for your corporate entity. I don't think of it necessarily as a for-profit, although it could be. I think of like this opportunity, like I said, to lead the WNBA, or even like, let's say even be the national leader of the Girl Scouts, or it can be like the Heart Foundation, but some organization that has an impact across all our states and possibly even nationally, because I think it would be fabulous to have an opportunity to develop a strategy for something that's meant to impact that many lives. So I don't know if I ever get to do that, but if I could just pick my next thing, I would pick something that would allow me to really test my ability to develop a brand and a mission and a vision that can impact the entire country.
Great answer. Okay, I have to ask this last question because it's cute and it's quick, and I have always wondered this. So it starts out silly question. Love how you are always paying tribute to Palm Beach State by wearing green. Where do you find all your green clothes?
You know, I think green clothes find me. You know what? That would have been a better picture to put up, as I put up my closet and show like just the green section of my closet. So it's everywhere, guys. You know, when it's looking for you, it jumps out at you. And I don't have as much as it seems, because I kind of mix and match, and I can do that. But how cool is it that you now, when you see me, you expect me to have on green, and you immediately associate me with the college. And I want you to know it's because of my commitment to wear Palm Beach State College on my back. And so when you see me and you see green, I want to take on the responsibility of being the face of what I think is one of the most important institutions in our community.
That's wonderful. And you look great in green too. So you kind of lucked out. It could have been another color, but it looks good on you. So, well, thank you so much for taking the time today. Thank you for sharing your story. For, like I said, you've reinvigorated me as a mom, as a professional. And I know we could have seen everybody that was joining us, we would have seen a lot of claps and standing ovations. So absolutely appreciate it. And I just hope everyone has a safe and healthy weekend, and stay dry. It looks like it's still storming pretty bad, but you know, again, thank you for taking the time with us today, and make sure to download our app. We do have all of our events, programs, calendars on there. It's you can connect with people on there, so make sure to download our app. And other than that, have a great afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Parker.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Bye-bye.